Rock 100.5 KATT. I am Cameron Buchholtz, and tonight the KATT presents the Trinity of Terror tour with Ice Nine Kills, Motionless in White, and Blackville Brides. And right now I am here with Spencer from Ice Nine Kills. What's happening, man?
I'm having a good time. Looking forward to the show. It's been a great tour so far, and can't wait to rock tonight.
Indeed, man. It's yeah, you're about a third of the way through this rare triple co-headline bill, which is it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's awesome. It reminds me sort of when I would go to shows back in the day, like when I was like, I don't know, 12 or 13 years old, like shows like Family Values Tour, where it wouldn't just be, the one headliner, but it was like Korn, Limp Bizkit, Rammstein. It has that kind of air to it. So it's a lot of fun to be part of.
Nice. It's got to be because you guys are rotating, right? Like you're just every night you're in a different spot.
Yes, yeah. So it's co-billed with us, Blackville, and Motionless in White, and we rotate every night who closes out the show.
Nice. Now you've probably been on this tour long enough to like have a favorite spot, right? It's probably the middle one, I would think.
I think middle is pretty cool because you're not sort of waiting around too long and kind of there's nothing to do, and you kind of get out a little bit early so you can kind of hit the restaurants or the bars, or if you're tired, just crawl into your bunk and go to sleep.
Nice. And what's it been like being out with Motionless in White and Blackville Brides? Because those aren't necessarily the easiest acts to have to follow.
I would say that it's been great. Everyone's performing really well, and doesn't really seem to be like any competitive edge or anything. We're all buddies and all just having a great time.
Nice. And wait, were you kind of involved in the putting together of this tour, or was it like pitched to you as, do you guys want to join this, or what was kind of the origin of this?
I think the managers of all three bands had been talking for a long time, thinking that the fans had wanted to see this lineup because I think the consensus was that we share a lot of the same fans. There's definitely an overlap amongst the three acts, and that it would just be a bill that people would love to see in sort of a fantasy situation, and they made it happen.
Awesome, man. Well, one thing I have to bring up right away is I was lucky enough to be in Vegas last month to get to see you guys open for Metallica, which had to just be insane.
Oh, it was crazy. It was crazy to get that opportunity. When we got the call that they wanted us on the show, we were sort of blown away. And then to then get the call just a month or so later that they wanted us for two more shows, which will be playing in August in Pittsburgh and Buffalo at these big, sports stadiums, one where the Bills play and one where the Pittsburgh Pirates play. We're just so thankful to be given that opportunity by a band that, defines what heavy metal is, and a band that inspired me so much, and it has helped shape our music. So to get that honor is just incredible.
And I mean, that sort of cosign is, I mean, that's a big deal. Like not that many bands get that sort of privilege and that opportunity.
It's crazy, and I'm just incredibly thankful.
And leading up to the show, I mean, what was your mindset? I mean, I'm assuming that Raiders Stadium was probably the biggest venue you guys have performed in before, maybe outside of some festivals or something, but
hands down, biggest place we've ever played, biggest crowd we've ever played. And we just wanted to get up there and prove that we belong. And we were sort of going into it. We had heard that, opening for Metallica, as you would assume, can be a little bit difficult to get the crowd to engage, but we were pleasantly surprised at the reaction that we seemed to get, and looking forward to playing the next two shows even more, because these shows that we'll do with Metallica in August will have had the opportunity for our fans to buy tickets, because for the Vegas one, by the time it was sold out, we weren't even announced on it. So it was already sold out when, people knew that we were going to be there. So our fans didn't really have the opportunity to get tickets.
Nice. And now, are you like a big sports fan? So is it like a thing to play in these, the teams that you're going into? Like, did you get, a Raiders jersey or something like that?
No, I've never really cared about professional sports. I like playing sports. I was big into hockey growing up. I played goalie when I was like from a little kid all the way up to high school, and I actually ended up playing goalie on a team with a guy that eventually made it to the NHL, Corey Schneider, who plays. I think he plays for the Devils now. But yeah, I never really cared about professional sports. Some of the other guys in the bands do.
Sure, sure. Well, that's where maybe that's where your love of the Jason mask came from.
That's probably subconsciously.
Right, right. But now let's talk about the latest record, Silver Scream 2, which is fantastic. First off, congrats on it.
Thank you.
What was the kind of your thinking going in? Like, did you know when you did the Silver Scream that you wanted to do more, or kind of what was that thought process?
I think that the Silver Scream one clearly brought us to a different level than anything we had done in the past, and it was just so cool and coincidental that that's the record that I really always wanted to make. I just didn't know it because I was such a huge fan of horror since I was a little kid, and I always sort of sprinkled that influence in wherever I could. And I thought, you did this record before about books. Let's just do horror movies, and it'll be such a great time putting it together. And it worked out really well. And once we realized how well it worked out, I think it was just a natural progression. Like there's always in horror movie tradition, there's always a sequel. Mm-hmm. And not only am I a big fan of horror films, but I'm also just a big fan of like the film business and the history of how slashers kind of rose to prominence in the 80s and eventually sort of was sort of ruined by the sequels. But it's really fun to play in that sort of meta universe, and it's just a lot of fun for me.
And so, are you thinking of a third one, or kind of what's the thought process with that? Because I mean, there's tons of movies you could still do, obviously.
Well, I would tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
Sure. Well, that'd be part of the lore, right?
Exactly.
But now, from the fan perspective, what's like? Are they wanting you to do more of that, or are they up for? They're probably up for whatever you're going to bring them. But what are the kids telling you at the VIP meet and greets and stuff?
I think the consensus seems to be everyone wants a part 3, but we'll see. We definitely don't want to repeat ourselves. So if we were to do it, we'd have to make sure that the right movies are being chosen and that we're taking it up a notch, because that was the goal with part 2. We needed to make it better than the first one, and I think we succeeded. And I'm glad to see that so much of the fan base feels that we did too. We're hearing a lot of that. Oh man, we didn't think you could top the first one, but you did. And I think no matter what we put out, we knew inevitably there'd be some kids that would be like, oh, it's not as good as the first. But we heard a little chatter of that in the beginning, and then we've seen those same people sort of come around like, nah, it is better.
Sure. And now when you're putting together the set list for the live show, and also thinking of what sort of props and costumes and things that you can integrate, like what's that thought process?
I think it's really just about whatever works best for the performance. And we definitely have to gauge the amount of space we'll have on a given tour. Sometimes, especially with this tour with 3 bands, there's a little bit less space than usual. So it's just all sort of about kind of testing some things out in the first few shows, seeing what works, and really kind of just playing it by ear. Make sure that we give the kids a great show.
And going back to the Metallica shows, it's got to be some sort of thought of the way you guys do use props and costumes and stuff that plays different in a theater like you're playing tonight than it does in a football stadium.
Totally. I mean, but one of the great things that I'd kind of forgotten about or sort of didn't realize is that it's such an advantage to have that camera with the jumbo screen. And that's why they have that in those big stadiums, so that the audience, no matter if you're in the front row or in your back, you can really see what's going on with the action. And I think that helped sort of right some of the concerns I was going to have, like, are people going to see that I'm actually, chopping someone's head off? And I think it read really nicely with the help of that, the Jumbotron.
For sure, man, for sure. Well, Spencer, I know you've got a lot going on here this afternoon, so I'll let you go, but I very much appreciate the time, and super stoked for the show tonight.
Absolutely, man. It's always a pleasure.
Indeed, man. Well, we'll just see you at the Criterion tonight.
Take care, buddy. Come say hello.
I will, definitely.